course, Meron, Lag BaOmer in Meron is the biggest event during the year. I believe I almost sure that I can say not only in Israel, in the whole, generally in the Jewish world. There is no a day that in 48 hours, an event in 48 hours can gather, or can attract 500,000, or some years more than half a million. So we have to understand what happened there, why it's so important, how it's important even by the opposition, the people that oppose the Lag BaOmer, like Mitnagdim and Israelis, secular Israelis, although the secular is very Meron is very attractive for them, the place and the traditions, but they're not part of them. So I'm not going to speak about the modern Lag BaOmer. It's highly interesting, but it's not our job now. But what I like to say, I like to take Lag BaOmer, all the three parts of it, as something Galilean that started in the late antiquity, continued to Middle Ages, and come to what we know in the 16th century, when the Spanish rabbis, after the expulsion from the Iberian Peninsula, when the high elite of those communities came to Safed, and we know all of them, Rabbi Yosef Karo, Ari, Hamabit, Ma'arit, whatever you want. So this is part of the life of those community, but basically we will discuss it. The most important thing, we'll discuss the origin, what they found when they came to Safed, what is the origin of Lag BaOmer, how they reacted to the tradition. Tzfat. What?
The Americans maybe don't know. It's Tzfat.
I said Safed?
Yeah, that's
sorry. No, I use it. Okay, so I apologize. So let's start with the first text. The first text is written by Rabbi Chaim Vital. I don't have to explain who Rabbi Chaim Vital is in this respectable community, I think. Rabbi Chaim Vital it's a document that it tells about Ha'ari in Meron, in the Hilula. And this is, from my point of view, the first text to speak about the Hilula as we speak now. The Hilula is much older, not the Hilula, the events in Meron, in the week of Lag BaOmer. I emphasize, in the week of Lag BaOmer, it's much earlier, and that is my task in this lecture, to go back as much as I can and to understand, according to the roots, what is the meaning of Lag BaOmer. Not Lag BaOmer, of the three parts of the issue: the person, the place, and the date. But in the 16th century, Hari, if you read now the text that I'm going to present, we see it almost. Let me change my. It's a bit strange to understand why Rabbi Chaim Vital decide to tell the story. עניין מנהג שנהגו ישראל ללכת ביום ל"ג בעומר על קברי רשב"י ורבי אלעזר בנו אשר קבורים בעיר מירון. That's the minhag that Bnei Israel used to do every ל"ג בעומר on the tombstone, on the ציונים of Rashbi and Rabbi Elazar bno, and we'll come to the early tradition about those ציונים. They are buried in Meron, as everyone knows, and they eat, drink, and very happy there. I, Reb Chaim Vital, so למורי זיכרונו לברכה, למורי ז"ל means Hari, that he went to Meron פעם אחת.
אתה יכול להגיד את זה בעברית. כולם מבינים.
כולם מבינים? אוקיי, I'll read it in the...
טקסט עברי אתה יכול לדבר בעברית.
בסדר גמור. If there is any problem, please ask me if there is a difficulty. אני ראיתי למורי זיכרונו לברכה שהלך לשם פעם אחת ביום ל"ג בעומר, הוא וכל אנשי ביתו, וישב שם 3 ימים ראשונים של שבוע ההוא. וזה היה פעם האחת שבא ממצרים. אבל אין אני יודע אם אז היה בקיא ויודע בחוכמה הנפלאה שהשיג אחר כך. I would like to emphasize some parts of this long sentence. First of all, Hari, he decided to tell the story that Hari was there. So there is a meaning that he was. It's not, if somebody, even in the Hari level, goes to Meron now, nobody will write it in the Iton, in the newspaper. So something it's happened there. Let's try to check what. After that, that's the first year that he came to Tzfat, to Eretz Israel. He was born in, Hari was born in Jerusalem, but as a child he immigrated, his family immigrated to Cairo. He was a student of the Ritbaz, he learned with the Ritbaz, and came back, he came back very young, still young to Safed, but died after 2 years. He settled in Safed in 1570 and died in 1572. Or it might be 73, I'm not sure. Anyhow, he was a bit more than 2 years. Only all the story of the Kabbalat Hari, it's 2 years that he spent and gathered some Iluim in Kabbalah that we'll hear about two of them soon. Reb Chaim Vital, the famous one, that edited his writings, Etzchaim, all the Etzchaim to all the Gilgulim, all the She'arim. And he's a guy that he's the one that tell us a story. So he's going with his family. He sits there. He stay in Meron 3 days from the week. I think that you can. It's not. I'm not exaggerating if I say that means that usually people come for a week to Meron for a week, but he stayed only for 3 days. וזאת הייתה הפעם האחת שבאה ממצרים. This is the first time that he came. That's the first time. I can read it in two ways. I think that's the first time that he came from Mitzrayim and settled in Safed. But I'm not sure that then he knew all the Chokhmah Nifla'ah, all the Torah Hari, all the Kabbalah Hari. He just liked to say everything that happened with Hari happened in Safed, since he came those 2 years. So let's pay attention to the 3 days. We will come back to it soon. And other member of the Chavua, of the Gurei Hari, Rabbi Yonatan Sagis, העיד לי שבשנה אחת קודם שהלכתי אני אצלי ללמוד, a year before I became a student of Luria, says Reb Chaim Vital, in the year before I started my learning with Ari, in Morizal, then he made chalake with his little son. Why said that? If it's שם גילחו את ראשו כמנהג הידוע, like everybody do that, so there is an answer. He do something against something. I would like to show what he did. His Ari, what I said something that I have to do later, but I will do that now. Hari, he is not part of the main group of the Hilula, and he said to other parts that oppose the Hilula, that he is going to the Hilula. This is might be that because Minhag HaMakom, he was Ashkenazi, as you know, that Minhag HaMakom is very important for him, but I'm not sure that that's the reason. I believe that it's part of the cult of Rashbi, but he accepts the way that a group, very special group in Eretz Israel used to do, and we call what they do Hilula, and more than that, he made the Chalake as they do. What Reb Chaim Vital liked to say, that the Ari accepted he adopted the Hilula as they were doing. As they. The question, who are they?
Which cult?
We'll come to it soon. I would like to show the opposite. The opposite behavior towards the Tzionim, towards Meron, and not towards Lag BaOmer, but towards the sanctuary, to the temple, to the very holy place in Meron. The text that I'm bringing now was written by Rabbi Avraham Galanti, one of the most important students of the most important Kabbalist of Safed. At the end, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, Pardes Rimonim, Sefer Elima, Tomer Dvorah, he is the most important Kabbalist. Tomer Pardes Rimonim is sum up at all the generation of all the interpretation of the Kabbalah from the beginning to his time, and interpreted the Zohar in Or Yakar with the 10th of volumes, as I believe some of you know. And now I'd like to see what Rabbi Abraham Galanti says, and I would like to suggest that what he says is the minhag of the students of Remak. He doesn't speak about himself, he speaks about a group, and the group is quite clear who are the students of Cordovero. And here we can see something about the vikuach that exists in Eretz Israel, in the Mediterranean communities might be, or perhaps in Sfat. But this is the situation after the coming of the Spanish, the Sephardic rabbis, that settled in Sfat. Remak is there, Ha'ari already there, not to speak about Rabbi Yaakov Berav, that was a teacher of all of them at the beginning, and Ma'arit, Mabit, all this beautiful, unbelievable community of scholars that we know. Ume'ata, if there is any problem with the Hebrew, please ask him. I take the advantage not to translate. ומעתה כמה נאה לעלות להראות פני אדוננו רשב"י, להשתטח על קברו, not in ל"ג בעומר, 3 פעמים בשנה. עלייה לרגל. כלומר, that reminds us something from the בית המקדש. And I will come to it. Sorry?
That has to do with 3 פעמים בשנה.
יראה כל זכורך על פני.
בזוהר it says, תראה פשורים ביחוי.
Yes, but they took it.
Udan Hashem, do Rashbi.
Udan Hashem, yeah.
Yes. But they behaved like that.
Right.
This is against Lag BaOmer. That said, we use this holy place as it מקדש, תחליף למקדש. ומעתה כמה נאה לעלות להראות פני אדוננו רשב"י, להשתטח על קברו 3 פעמים בשנה. ועלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, כי כן יתקיים בימינו שכל חבריי ואני עמהם הולכים להקביל פניו 3 פעמים בשנה. עוסקים בסודותיו מימי מורנו עליו השלום. Means it's after 1570, the year that Remak died. זה לנו 20 שנה, it's 1519. המקום ברחמיו יגדור פרצה זו שנפרצה בחברים בעוונותינו, וירחם על פלטת החברים הנשארת, למען נעלה אל בית השם מירון. Look the way they evaluate the ציון. אל בית השם מירון, להשתטח על קברו 3 פעמים בשנה, והשם ברחמיו יחשבנו לצדקה כאילו עלינו להר ציון 3 פעמים להראות פני אדון השם, אמן, כן יהי רצון. So it's impressive, it's highly impressive, more than that. It's brave and it's almost strange, I can say. But I would like now to pay attention to something else. That there are some groups. It's not, Lag BaOmer, it's not the only way to celebrate, to do something with the Tzion of Rashbi. And Rashbi, even Rashbi, we'll look soon, it's new thing. It's a novelty in the story, in the big story of Meron, but his uniqueness. Rashbi is known in Meron, we'll come to it at the end, but Rashbi, the Pulchan Rashbi, the cult of Rashbi, is the only one, the most important. It's almost as Messiah, or perhaps even more than that. It's new. It's not new. It's from this time. Before that, it's not clear. You can see here that the Sephardic group of rabbis.
It was more the place than the person. Are you saying before that was it more the place?
The place it's much older than the person. Much older. The Meron is very,
what was
very
the
important.
Significance of it then?
Sorry. Okay. We'll come to it. That's our issue, to deal exactly with these issues. מעתה כמה נאה, we see a way of the Sephardic rabbis, scholars, Hasidim, or whatever you want to call them. They prefer to look at the Tzion of Rashbi as a mikdash, as a bet mikdash, and come to it 3 times a year. and compare them. It's not our understanding. They themselves compare it. And if I understand it right, it's not going together with Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer take all the intention from all the Sviva. So if Lag BaOmer is the most important day of the sanctuary, let's call it in this way, so it's not goes together with the 3 times a year that you're going there. And so, but we have to remember that the Sephardic rabbis, the Sephardic communities, not rabbis and students, etc., look at Rashbi as the most important figure, just because they came with the Zohar to suffer. And that everybody knows that's what leaded all the behavior of Hari and Cordovero and others. But here we see 2 kinds of way of avodat Meron among the Tzfat Chassidim. So these are pulmus, these are debates, these are machloket between. We will see about it soon. Now, I would like to show 2 texts. Each of them, I believe, speaks about the same event, but we have 2 versions of it. One of them was kept by the Chida, Chaim Yosef David Azulai, and the others appears in Shivchei Ari. And the story is very, very strange, I must say. That showed us that there is machloket, they argue about the story of Meron, and now we can start to understand from where all the story of the Hilula came. Who invented it? Where the function in the everyday life before the Sephardic communities came to Safed and before the Ari immigrated from Cairo. Now we speak about 2 main groups of Eretz Israel in the Middle Ages and early modernity. B'imei Maran, that's a text that I took from Pinkas of Chida. B'imei Maran, הסכימו means כתבו תקנת קהל. It's a rule. הסכימו, but they didn't sign it. בימי מרן, who is Maran, I don't have to say in this holy עדה. בימי מרן הסכימו שלא ישרעו... sorry?
בית יוסף.
רבי יוסף קארו. בימי, זה לא רב עובדיה יוסף. בימי מרן הסכימו שלא יעשו ישראל הערביים מחול בל"ג בעומר. בימי רבי יוסף קארו, that he was the most important rabbi of the Ma'amad, of the Sephardic Beis Din in Safed, that was the most important one, just because they was the majority. They were majority, and they have a... let's continue. בימי מרן הסכימו שלא יעשו ישראל הערביים. That's the groups that I'm not sure that everybody knows. ישראל הערביים, that's what we called מסתערבים, המוסתערבים. They have their own מנהגי ארץ ישראל. And the Sephardish try to oppress them, try to replace the מנהג ארץ ישראל in מנהג ספרד. It's not the only ויכוח that we have in there, but here it's very important because it's not a debate between 2 rabbis, it's a debate about 2 communities. And the Sephardic rabbis try to oppress, it's a good word?
Yes.
To suppress the tradition of the Palestinian community, Jewish community. Now we can do what the Hilula was before the stages we saw before that. בימי מרן הסכימו שלא יעשו ישראל הערביים מחול, they were not against the dancing בל"ג בעומר על ציון רשב"י, ונראה למרן, says the writer, I don't know who was it, Achida was just a connector of this text, ונראה למרן ובית דינו שהוא חס וחלילה זלזול שאוכלים ומרקדים. כלומר, we see two mentalities, the mentality of the מקובלים, the Sephardic rabbis and the מקובלים, the Sephardic מקובלים, they for them dancing and eating like we used to do in till now in Meron. It's a zilzul. Sorry?
I'm saying, like I told him that he predicted the Megaifa Gedoyle if you do. It just happened.
all the way around.
Now, okay, let's go back to the basis of Maran. The Maran Iskimu decided about the decision to forbidden to go to Meron, or in this, here it's a bit subtle, שלא יעשו ישראל הערבים, to forbid dancing in Meron, to forbid as a kind of celebrating the Hilula, let's say. It's not only dancing, as you will see soon. מחול בל"ג בעומר על ציון רשב"י, because it's dismissing of the place, of the holy place that they eat there and dancing there. Now, as you know, the only things that we do in the Hilula is to eat and to dance. ונכתבה הסכמה ולא נחתמה. They didn't sign the הלכה, the הסכמת בית הדין. בלילה חלם מרן עם הרשב"י, בלילה חלם מרן, the Rashbi appeared in his dream, ואמר לו שתבוא מגפה גדולה בעבור זאת ההסכמה. That Rashbi opposed the idea to stop the dancing and the eating in Meron, כי רצונו שישמחו בהילולה. Rashbi wants the way of Eretz Israel minhag, to celebrate the Hilula in the way of the Mistaravim, not in the way that the Sephardic rabbis suggested. ולמחר קרה הסכמה. The same story is formulated in another way in Shivchei Ari, and it's very interesting. I can't say that which of them is original. None of them is original. The story was orally, I believe, and each group interpreted the story, what happened in the Beis Din of Rabbi Yosef Karo in his own way. Somebody emphasized this point and the other point. For sure, the text that we are going to read now came from the students of Hari, of Luria. Okay? The other one the other one I believe it's just chronic. It's just what happened. And the text that we have in Shivchei Ari, I believe that it's formulated by Vital or another Talmidim of Ari, and I think that quite clear according to what we already read in the first passage. שוב יום אחד והם לומדים. הם לומדים גורי הארי. הארי, in his best medrash, teaches his students and says to the חברים, תדעו שהרבנים, הרבנים means the Sephardic rabbis, the Beis Din, the Sephardic rabbis נתקבצו במעמד, מעמד that's the name of the Beis Din. We know it from Amsterdam, from any Sephardic community in the Middle East, in the Mediterranean, in the Pinkasim. Ma'amad, that's the name of the Beis Din. You have to know that the rabbis gathered in the Ma'amad and like to cancel the Hilula, the Rashbi. And they opposed totally the Hilula, not hinted as it was in the last passage. באמור שלא ילכו נשים מקושטות למירון. That's the issue that comes again and again in Meron, the place of the women in the Hilula. And the Mistarvim came without knowing, without any problem. Men, women, children, it's a family celebration, and they came and do it in their own way. We have to remember that even the Sephardic that lived in Safed were not regular community. They have Mekubalim, they have people who came to להתקדש in Safed, so they were more מחמירים than in other places. שלא ילכו נשים מקושטות למירון, ואם ילכו בבגדי חול, if ילכו בבגדי חול, women not allowed to go with בגדי חג, and if they are going only in בגדי חול, and they are not allowed to sleep there unless the old women. ואם ככה יעשו, and if they will refuse to accept the decision of the base din, מגפה גדולה, תבוא מגפה גדולה ויחלה רעים וטובים. That's what says הארי. If we accept the decision of the מעמד, תבוא מגפה גדולה ותחלה רעים וטובים, that we saw in the other version of the same story. Yes?
Correct.
So now it
Think it's the
starts to
same
be...
story, just two versions?
Wait, it's a
No,
very
the origin
different
is quite clear. The basin of Rabbi Yosef Karo thought about to stop the Hilula. To stop the Hilula because it needs tzniut. And that's the only story. And
The women shouldn't go dressed up. That's the main problem. The women shouldn't go dressed up. Mepushetet means with makeup and everything.
no. The רבנים התקבצו לבטל הילולה דרשב"י. Why? Because the women are going. But the decision is לבטל הילולה דרשב"י. No, they said clearly. Look, it's not clearly, because that's the version that we have from the base medrash of the student of Ari. אבל they claim that the base medrash of, let's see how it's called, בימי מרן, הסכימו שלא יעשו ישראל הערביים מחול. That's it. They're not going to forbid the Hilula itself. In this version, they forbid the Hilula. They like to forbid to go to Meron in Lag BaOmer. ואם ילכו באמור, שלא ילכו נשים מקושטות למירון, they allow people to come, but not the Hilula as it was usually done by the Israel הערבי, by the
Women dressed up.
Yes, but basically it's more than that, because they oppose the eating,
זה יבח משפוקו.
שלא ילכו נשים מקושטות למירון, ואם ילכו בבגדי חול, לא ילינו שם זולת זקנות. ואם ככה יעשו, says הארי to his students, חס וחלילה, תבוא מגפה גדולה ויחלה רעים וטובים. והשיב רחו, רב חיים ויטל, מדוע, למה מר לא יודיע להם הדבר להציל את ישראל? Why are you not going to the מעמד? To say them that it's quite dangerous to get to stop the הילולה. אמר לו הרב, אינם מאמינים בי. It's very interesting. אינם מאמינים בי. כלומר, the lawyer that we used to look at him, the most important figure in Safed of the 16th century, they אינם believe. אמר רב חיים ויטל, I will go, אני אלך והודיע להם. אמר לו, לך. הלך שם והודיע להם, מהם לא האמינו, ומהם אמרו יבוא הרב פה. Some of them denied the authority of Hari, and others said, we invite him to come and to explain his opinion. מהם אמרו יבוא הרב פה ונראה דבריו, שלחו אחריו ובא ודיברו עמו. This is very important text because that all the Hilula after that till the 19th century run according of this passage. Look, אמר לו, הלך שם והודיע להם, מהם לא האמין, כן. דיברו עמו שמה שהם רוצים לעשות כן. לפי שבימים ההם יש שמחות וגילות במאכל ומשתה. כן? They explain to him why they have to forbid the הילולה because there is שמחות וגילות במאכל ומשתה. ואם מידי עבירה יצאנו, מידי הרהור לא יצאנו. Yes, it's much softer than in the beginning. ואין ראוי במקום הזה לעשותו. Now let's pay attention to what Hari said to them. והשיב להם, האמת עמכם, you're right, האמת עמכם. ומה נעשה? That sentence it is quoting, every year somebody is quote this sentence. ומה נעשה? שהרשב"י מרוצה מזה. You are right, but רשב"י, the אדון ההילולה, זה אדון המקום,
אדון השם.
he likes it. מה נעשה שהרשב"י מרוצה בזה? The most important word for me, וכמה שנים שנוהגים. I think that this is very important words of Ari, because מנהג המקום. And you are going to destroy everything if you are going to do that. But the highly beautiful sentence is, זה הרשב"י מרוצה בזה. וחס וחלילה יקפיד עלינו, ויבוא נגף בעם. אבל אני אומר לכם דבר, if you believe me, אם תאמינו לי, look, pay attention please, באלו הימים במירון אין ערבות. בכלל, וכל ישראל ערבים זה בזה, doesn't exist in Meron in the הילולה terms. In the הילולה...
מי זה? שבתא צבי?
לא, it's not שבתא צבי.
Does that mean can you not be moishe?
שבאלו הימים במירון לא יש ערבות, אלא החוטא ימות לבדו, ואז בשומעם ביטלו את
מה זה
ההסכמה.
החוטא? זה שיש לו
חוטא, מי שחוטא.
הפריצות?
Everybody did something wrong.
Oh.
No, I don't think so. Everybody did something
no
wrong
לפני עבר.
in the הילולה is
בעיה
its
של
own
עצמו.
business. Okay? So let's sum up more academically what we achieved till now. We see, first of all, we see that that the Hilula originally. What? There's a problem? Okay. בסדר. I would like to sum up some very important things. First of all, we see that the Hilula was designed, was utzva as we know it now in the second half of the 16th century, and to Luria has a very important place in this process. Just because he, against the Sephardic rabbis, decided to go with the Eretz Israel, the Minhagim, the Eretz Israel Minhagim, against ניסיונות, trying like the Remark students to try to do it in another way and with another ideology, of course. And he decided to go with that in very, very strange steps. For example, he banned one of his students that said Nachem in Birkat HaMazon in Lag BaOmer. Yes, you know, I believe that some of you know the story. So he made the historical decision in this context. It's not so important. It's not historically in the full meaning of the word, but the historical decision to go with the Eretz Israeli and tradition, to go with the to celebrate Lag BaOmer and Rashbi and Meron in the way that was suggested by the Mistaravim, and not in the way that was suggested by the Sephardic. Even Maran were the part of the Ma'amad in this moment. So we have two options, and we will continue the lecture in this way, if you don't mind.
Now, if anyone has a question, should ask, and I'll send on the mic because it's not if you have the question, but everyone should listen to it.
Okay.
First of all, I would like to ask you if I'm clear enough.
One thing you were not clear, one thing. Luria זה נקרא פה ארי הקדוש. The oilam is nishmasi.
Okay. But this was the last time that I mentioned Ariel.
You need to know the contrast. You know what the Kodesh wants.
You're right. You know, Rabbi Yoel, when I signed the first paper, it was about the Mordechai and the Chachmei Ashkenaz. I was
Just a second. One at a time. One at a time,
to see Israel, so we are a bit rude.
Okay.
The academics are rude. No, you are right. You are right.
It's so more.
I accept it, and I will do that.
Not accept it. It's okay.
Okay. Galanti, the text you showed us from Galanti, he refers to Hashem Yigdal Pirtzot Ameinu. What is that referring to?
I wanted to. It might be two options. First of all, it can relate to the death of Remark in 70, but it was, and he mentioned 20 years ago, he said that. But the 70s, the 80s, the 90s in Safed, it's a huge crisis that finished all the story of Safed. You have to remember that Safed almost doesn't exist. The Safed that we speak about, the city existed, of course, but the Safed for us, the Safed, the Jewish Safed with the Shulchan Aruch, with the Etz Chaim, and etc., or Israel Najjar, with the Ribon Olam, and all this doesn't exist. It was an economic crisis that started in Salonika with with the industry of wool, that old Tzfat was based on it, and I believe that that's what he did. That
Okay,
he
one
mentioned.
more question. I believe there's another text that refers to the Ari going up to Meron and like going on all four, and he.
It's all Chaim.
Okay, another one. Someone else wants to ask
More
a
than
question?
100 years
Later.
Shaya.
Chiddubrink.
These two texts that mentioned the Aliyah Kodesh are 200 years later, right? So you were speaking about the Aliyah Kodesh made this thing that he says we're going like Stardim. They're all very, very late. Is there
No,
any?
no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Now,
You said because of Chida. Because of Chida.
Right.
Chida was the great collector of texts in the Jewish history. If you know, I just finished now to supervise a dissertation about the Chida that's going to be published soon in Magnes. The Chida, he was a smart, he was a great Talmid Chochem, he was a genius. He is the first Jewish scholar that knew how to deal with manuscripts. I can't finish the praise of the Chida in this form now. You don't have time for that. But besides that, he was a collector, and he collected for example, he has book Zera Anashim. Have you heard about the Zera Anashim? It was 277 texts that he collected in his journeys. He was Shadar. He was Shadar. Twice he went. So he knew, he collected everything that he could. So this is Pinkas. It's not a book that he wrote.
So what would it be dated
It was
as?
taken from, sorry?
What would his source would be dated as?
I believe that he took it from somebody that lived in suffered in the same time, in the real time, because it's written as a chronic, not as a story without using words to I don't know if I forgot the word for now. He write it as a halacha.
Not to dramatize.
He didn't dramatize.
Without the drama.
Why is it different than Shivcha Ari? It's the same.
Why is it
Shivcha Ari?
Shivcha Ari?
Sing language.
Shivcha Ari was written in early 17th century by Shlomil.
No, when we say the style, it also has.
No,
like that
it's not the
vibe.
style. Shivcha Ari, it's also collection. It's also collection, and many people wrote it. Shlomil of Zrezi, it's collected it to one volume. But even it was done in early 17th century, they knew about what they are speaking about. It's not like us. If you like to, you are going to formulate a Shevach Ha'ari, and we added a lot of Shvachim on the story. They knew exactly what happened, because the story of the Hilula was always under debate, under discussion until the 19th, until this year.
Oh, but even after the destruction of Tzvas,
Even the destruction. You know what I have here in my computer? I love Safed and Meron. I don't know why. My main field is early modernity in Europe. I speak about it in the next two classes. But this is I love Meron and the Hilula, and when I was a bit younger, not too younger. Every year was in the Hilula, not in the terrible year 3 years ago. I wasn't there, but I came since I was a child, and that is the story of the opposition against the Hilula. Exists all the time by rabbis, by mitnagdim, by chiloniim, and the people, even though it's full with 500,000 people that I told you, but it's under discussion. Always it's under discussion. Even there are not people that are not related to Hilula. It's a story. It's a problematic story. First of all, because there is no halachot. Because of what I mentioned in my first sentence, there is no. I'm not sure that it's not only. It's more. It's much more than folklore. It's a religious event.
Could it be because there are scholars out there who say that neither of these are correct, meaning neither Reb Shimon is buried there, and neither the day of we Lag Boimer is the day of his.
I haven't heard somebody that has doubt about that this is a place of Reb Shimon. We have, as I will tell you soon. But I haven't heard. It's not a claim. It's not a tluna that I heard from people that it's not the place of fellowship. Look, it's a very interesting thing that you ask. You know, that's the Israeli question. Sorry, I hope that you are not insulted by this. The Israeli is a complex of archaeology. Why it's Kever David? It's buried here? No. We don't care about it. It's a holy place. Even we call it Kever David, or even we call it Kever Shlomo, and I don't know what. You agree with me? All the Galilee, it's holy places. It's sometimes you can call it.
I'm just saying, if the debate took form because of this, that's what I'm saying.
Sorry?
Now, I said the debate might have taken place because this might have been part of it.
Yes, I agree.
What he mentions about the day, he's right. It's not clear that day is Yom HaPtirit. Even the Ari doesn't say it.
But it's not clear to
It's Hilula of Rashbi.
What does it mean, Hilula? It's not clear.
Just one more question.
It's not clear. That Yuda Libes, by the way, in excellent paper about the Messianism of Rashbi, and I recommended you to read it. It's a paper, but it's a book. It's almost 200 pages. He dealt with the question what Hilula is.
What the word means.
Hilula is like a simcha.
Celebration. It doesn't have to be a Yutza.
Let's move on. Just one question by Kalman, and then we go on.
להבין את הקונטקסט, מי הישראלים ערביים, מי היה רבנים שלהם?
Oh, this is a great question, I must say, because we know about only, they have tradition, that their halachic tradition, not given by formal rabbis, it's just halachas that move from one generation to another. Most of the halachas that we know, most of the halachot that we know about, I speak only about the Galilee. The Israel Arvim, Haradbaz, for example, Rabbi David ibn Zimra, Rabbi Yisachar ben Susan, that collected all the minhagei Israel Arvim. There is Rabbi Yosef Alexandrini that wrote Agahot on the Tour. There are some, and there is a very good dissertation. It was written by somebody, a doctor, a young scholar, Talmid Chacham, really Talmid Chacham. His name is, although even he has almost Canaanite name, Dotan Arad. He is a yeshiva bocher, learned a lot, and he was the first one to decipher the Mistarvim Lomdes, and not in his dissertation, in his thesis. And I recommended you, and he wrote about it, and if you wish, I will give you the reference after that.
Dotan Arad?
Sorry?
What's his name?
Dotan Arad. And he published interesting, and he followed. There are a lot of scholars that we know. None of them is famous like the Sephardic rabbis, not only because not because they were less than them, because Sephardic became the dominant rabbis in the halacha. Ashkenazi from one hand, and Rabbi Bes Yosef from one hand, and Remo from other hand. They are not dominant, but they are very important, and the halachic tradition was halacha l'maaseh. They know what to do in Shemitah, in Maasrot, etc., etc. They knew how to do that. And the Sephardic rabbis opposed them, tried to show that they are not, tried just to rule. It was a vikuach on the authority in Eretz Israel. But this, if I will start to speak about it, we will not finish our job.
We're going to the next step, okay.
Okay, let's continue. You remember that, now, we saw some text about the Hilula as we know it. We know about two kinds of Hilula, of relation, way to relate to the Tziyun, onto Meron in general. No, since now it's the Tziyun, not in Meron in general. Now I would like to show you the first text that speaks about tekes, about celebration that happened in Meron, and it's from the 13th century, end of 13th century, before the Mamelukes conquered Akko from the Crusades. This is taken from travelogue or from guidebook. The only guidebook that I know from Middle Ages, only Hebrew guidebook.
Binyamin?
No. Binyamin is not guidebook; it's travelogue. So he says what he did. I speak about the books that intend intended to use it, and he described Meron in highly interesting thing, and I'd like to read it carefully with me. ובמירון שם מערה של קבר לשמאי והלל ותלמידיהם. For us, let me recommend you to relate only to the word me'ara. There is no any reason to the tradition of Hillel v'Shammai, and it doesn't exist. It wasn't important. Nobody says, I'm coming to pray on the tomb of Hillel v'Shammai. But somebody, since, I don't know when, the me'ara in Meron, me'ara, nothing to do with Rashbi. We know exactly where the me'ara is till now. If you come to the Hilula, everyone can show it to you. ובמרון, שם מערה של קבר לשמאי והלל ותלמידיהם. סך כולם 32. How do they know 32? Because the year כוכים. There is places 32 קברים. Yes. Now we start the story. ושם מתקבצים, you know exactly that we speak about the Meron of the ישראל הערביים, of the מסתערבים. ושם מתקבצים ישראלים וישמעאלים בפסח שני. Not in י"ח באייר, ל"ג בעומר, but in י"ד באייר. Okay? Not in the same day. ושם מתקבצים ישראלים וישמעאלים בפסח שני. Now they described something like הילולה. וישראלי, but keep reading it as a stages in a tekes, in a ritual. What they are doing. It's like, we know such behavior in, sorry to say, in the Holy Sepulchre, in each sanctuary in Islam, in Christianity. That's a way of celebrating a holy place, in pilgrimage, especially in pilgrimage. Now look, it started with ישראל מתפללים ואומרים מזמורים. That's the ritual, that's the הפולחן. And that happened the event. The event is appearance of water that wasn't there before. A nes. Okay? This is a nes. They praying, and in the middle of the day, when the Kohanim, let's say Kohanim, it's not Kohanim, not priests, Bnei Levi, the why who run the tekes, they מתפללים, then מוצאים מים בתוך המערה. When they find the water, when they see the water springs from the cave, כולם שמחים. All the ritual stops or come to its end, and then starts the third stage of the day. These are rituals אומרים תהילים, אומרים, say תפילות. After that, the water happened. It's like if I compare it to the fire. The fire Saturday in the Holy Sepulchre, when the fire light the candles miraculously, and fire and water are all the same in such rituals. וכשהם מוצאים מים בתוך המערה, כולם שמחים. Why? שהוא סימן שתתברך השנה. They celebrate water in the beginning of the summer. Why? Why do they do that? Why? It's strange, no? Let's speak about it later. And many times, when not the water didn't come out. והרבה פעמים שלא נמצאו שמיים, ובעת תפילתם היו באים המים. They continue to pray, כלומר, the כהנים, the people who stay in the מערה, not outside like the people that שמחים, that celebrating, they continue to pray until the water comes out. Okay? Everything is clear?
Very clear.
ובעת תפילתם היו באים המים כהרף עין. And רבי שמעון בר יוחאי is also there. There is the cave, ושם רבי שמעון בר יוחאי, ועליו ציון נאה. סמוך לו רבי אליעזר בנו, רבי אלעזר, we have to say of course. אומרים כי שם היה בית מדרשו של רבי שמעון בר יוחאי, ושם גם בית הכנסת לרבי שמעון בר יוחאי, בניין מפואר מאוד. You say that he is exception. He has ציון, he has בית מדרש, he has synagogue, but he is not the only one, and if not, he is not the center of he is not the center of the sanctuary. The center is a cave, and the most important event in the days that they gather there is the story of the water. I would like to read another sentence because it's very important, although I'm not going to deal with that. ושם אבן גדולה חלולה מראשה עד למטה. There is in the cave. There is Sorry?
Like the big black stone,
like
the
מזבח.
apps, like
No,
the
no,
apps.
no.
זה
They look
שיט,
at it as מזבח. ושם אבן גדולה, if you're going to deal with that, we take all the time that we stay, that we have. But pay attention to that. In the center of the cave, and cave is very important issue in the Galilee. I mentioned there is no buildings. They don't build holy places. They identify places. Caves, stones, trees, springs, etc. etc. ושם אבן גדולה חלולה, empty, in the middle there is a hole, from the beginning to the end. People says, שם היה מזבח. Which מזבח? To whom? They don't mention. והדם היה שוטט ויורד דרך אותו מקום חלול. We know this stone in another text, but I don't like to...
Do we have it today, this stone?
No,
Yes,
the stone.
yes.
Where is the
You
stone?
don't have to be
in the cave.
Which cave? Which cave?
This is Sham Evanil, right?
No.
אני יודע מה אתה מתכוון, אתה יכול להגיד.
אני לא בטוח שיודע, אולי תגיד את זה.
משהו מנצרות.
לא, שום דבר לא. Look, Christianity doesn't exist in the Upper Galilee.
אז למה אתה...
In the Galilee.
In the Upper Galilee, there is no Christian there.
Nazaret is not...
Nazaret in the Galilee Tachton, in the Lower Galilee. There is no Christianity in... There is Christianity
years
in the
is there no
Crusades. In
Christianity?
the Crusade time, they ruled the Galilee, the Upper Galilee too. But there is no churches of the Byzantine period, for example, that covered the Lower Galilee.
Why?
Why? Now?
No, you brought it up.
The Arabs, the Muslims.
Don't that with me.
Did the Muslims also have, it says the Ishmaelim,
Oh,
did they have something?
that's the most important thing.
I want to know what they did.
Thanks to remind me, I forgot to emphasize
Like you
it.
see in the
The
old
most
pictures,
important...
the Druzis,
Let's see.
Let's see what the
Let's
Arabs
enough
did,
the Ishmaelim. I'm not sure they can identify they identify between Jews and Muslims. Look, the most important thing, or one of the most important things that we see now, that the story of the holy places in the Galilee, it's not Jewish. It's local. It's a local ritual. It's a local rite. The Muslims consider the place not as the Jews, because Meron is under the Jews, but the Muslims come to celebrate with them. All the Galilee rituals are local more than specific Jews or Muslim. All of them, the Jews take part in the Muslim rituals in this time, not now, not anymore.
This doesn't sound like a
Unfortunately, from my
religious
point of view.
ritual.
Yeah.
It sounds more like
Very ritual.
this,
Very
this
religious.
sounds more like they want to lure like the blessing from.
Of course, the question of water is common for everybody, and this place has its good
Wir kennen
of
schon
water.
anfangen, sich beide Eulen, also lassen ihm so gesagt, mit geben Zeit, mit Ending so, halte ich mit sich selbst sagen. Okay?
But if you ask me, you can find the Arabs till now in the Iluna. In Lag BaOmer, if you know how to identify Arabs, not only by the dresses, you can see that many of them come and not take part, but come to look and to be part of the story. In this Mandat period, they cover in every picture that you look at in Meron, you can identify easily the Arabs among the Jews. And this is very important to understand the ritual, to understand the story. If you're going to understand what happened in the Galilee in general, so we have to speak about a local, not to local religion, but a local culture. Let's speak about local culture. Jews and Muslims live together. That's the reason that you can speak about Yisrael Ha'arvim. Yisrael Ha'arvim, it's kipshuto. They speak Arabic, they dress as Arabs, but they are Jews, and they menich tefillin, and some of them are scholars, but they part of the Palestinian culture, the local culture.
Just like the Sephardic rabbis.
No, the Spanish rabbi
No, I'm saying the Sephardic rabbis in Spain.
In
Spain, they were Andalusian.
Yes, but if we like to understand the culture of the Galilee that we are going to that we are dealing now, we have to understand that there is at least many aspects that are local, not less than specific Jewish attributes. Okay, so now we see that Meron is quite complicated place. I sometimes think that it's a sort of pantheon so that many people were buried, relate to be buried there. One of them Hillel Shammai, other it's Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. There are a lot. If you take Binyamin Tudela that you mentioned before that, he mentioned 10 figures,
Do
10
the Arabs
Tanaim.
also have their person there?
I believe that each tomb that really relate to Tana, they have their own tradition. Okay? There is a question about this beautiful text from my point of view. Anyhow, we see this is the beginning of the Hilula, but the Hilula is not Rashbi. The Hilula is the place invites Hilula. That's perhaps in the all holy places in the Galilee. Might be that this is one of the most important. Might be that this is the most important.
מה זה המזבח הזה?
Let's leave it because this is a cult of the cave, and at the beginning I put it in the PowerPoint too, but I decided not to come into it because if we start with it, that will finish the.
We're gonna have to call next to Lag
about
BaOmer.
Meron, Rashbi, Lag BaOmer. That's our issue. But just to strengthen the idea of the local culture that the Jews took part in it, I would like to read two texts quickly. Two Arabic texts were written by officers, two Muslim officers. One of them was the ruler of Safed, the other was historian. One his name is El Dimashki, 14th century. Some decades after the Elia Masaot that we read before that. Okay? Uvehar El Zabud. Remember the name. El Zabud, that's the Arabic name of the hill that Meron is situated. Okay? The Arabic name is El Zabud. Uvehar El Zabud, there is a reason that I ask you to remember it. Uvehar El Zabud, בסביבות צפת, יש כפר הנקרא מרון. ובו מערה מכילה כוכים ובריכות. במשך כל השנה יבשה. צריך לתרגם?
לא צריך לתרגם.
במשך כל השנה יבשה ואין בה טיפת מים אחת, ולא טל ולא רטיבות. יום אחד בשנה מתאספים אליה אנשים היישובים הרחוקים והקרובים. Look, this is very important. Who are the people who gather to Meron? The Galilean Jews. It's not international yet. It will be international only when they build that building in the 17th century or 18th century, and then people come from Kushta, from Istanbul, and from Cairo. Yeah. Till now, it's Galilean. We are dealing now with Galilean culture and Galilean cult. יום אחד בשנה מתאספים אליה אנשים מיהודי היישובים הרחוקים והקרובים והפלאחים, the villagers, וזולתם ונשארים כל היום. Sorry. הם נכנסים אל המערה ויוצאים. Exactly as we read in אלי המסעות. הם נכנסים ועושים שם משהו. They did something. Pray. Yes, that's what they call the priest came in and the others stay out. הם נכנסים אל המערה ויוצאים. המערה נשארת יבשה. ואחר כך פתאום פורצים המים. And immediately the water springs out. מאותם הבריכות והכוכים and streams on the earth בתוך המערה an hour or two ואחר כך פוסקים. וזה, look, וזה יום חגם של היהודים. That's the holiday of the Jews of the Galilee. And that is the most important thing about Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is the day of the Galilean Jews. That's the day. That's the way that Lag BaOmer started its career. It's a Galilean day. וזה יום חגם של היהודים. And look what they did. They took the water, הם לוקחים את המים, they מובילים את המים אל המקומות הרחוקים והקרובים ואומרים אלה מי מרון.
Arabic.
It's Arabic. It's not Arabic, it's Hebrew, but it's translated. It's the guy who wrote it. It's El Dimashki. He was the ruler of.
But he refers to a Jewish event.
What?
It's a Jewish event, not a local event.
It's a Jewish event, but the Arabs. He doesn't mention the Arab because he's Arab himself. So he looked at it. But even it state, they both of them state they are present in the place. The Chag is Jewish. It's the same in Muslim place. Even Jews take part in the Muslim feast. The feast is Muslim, but they run it. The Jews run it. So,
So in Hintertür hat sich das getauscht für die Peisach Shani zu Lagoin.
Mit alles, ooit zu sagen, Kasche ist, geht rumkommen, wird
I would like to pay attention to that, okay? How we are with the... That passage is not important to us now, but I'd like, it appeared in the manuscript of Kaftor Ferach of Historia Parchi. I believe that most of you heard about this very important scholar, student of the Rosh in Spain, and he came to Eretz Yisrael and wrote the Kaftor Ferach on Mitzvot Lo Yod Ba'aretz, but he used the geography to his decisions. That is his importance. And he, in manuscript, it doesn't appear in the printed book, he wrote something about Jabal Zabud. Remember the Jabal Zabud? I just quoted now. I'm not sure that I will come back to it later, but if I do, it's very important, so remember it. גם טעו הקוראים הר געש, the people who identified הר געש. Do you remember הר געש from the Bible? From the end of Sefer Yoshua, from the beginning of Sefer Shoftim, twice. הר געש is a place, על יד הר געש, Joshua bin Nun, Yoshua bin Nun was buried, next to הר געש. גם טעו הקוראים, the people who identified הר געש, לאותו הר שלפני צפת, שנקרא בלשון ערבית ג'בל זבוד. שהרי געש זה ליד שכם. That means that there are people who identified הר געש in Meron.
The Galileans.
Let's speak about it later. Just remember that there are people, they connected between Yoshua bin Nun and Meron. And we'll speak about it, not now. I just put it here because it might be that we'll use it later. Oh, again, all the time I make the same thought.
Ein Zabud is the same?
Al Zabud.
Jabal is a mountain.
There's Ein Zabud. Is that
This is another one that was written by a man, his name is Osmani, also in the 14th century. I brought it just to show you that he mentioned the name Emtza Iyar. What happened in Meron, it's in Emtza Iyar, means in Pesach Sheni. That will be very important for us, and we are moving now from Meron to the question of the date of Lag BaOmer.
1 second.
Just a moment, let me see if there is something they're the same, it's almost the same. ויהודים מביאים מן המים, that's almost the same. Okay.
Okay, is there anyone that has a question? Shaya.
No, I'm just wondering if the Mastardim had the same calendar like the Svadish Rabbunan, because 2-3 days being off between Pesach Shani, the Mastardim had a different. Did they at that point have a different calendar? If they had a different calendar.
I'm not sure that I understand you. Can you repeat, please? Sorry.
He's asking.
The Mastardim had a different calendar, so they could have been
Yes,
off by
yes,
2-3
yes.
days. So Pesach Shani and like BaOmer.
Yes, you're right, but you're wrong. Together. You are right that as far the Mistaravim in Eretz Israel has a very special calendar. They count for Shemitah not as a Rambam but as what we call Rashi, and they have another thing in the Luach. But the question of Pesach Sheni and Lag BaOmer is another question. It's a good idea, but it doesn't work.
Could the source,
we're going to deal with that now.
could the source of Pesach Sheni and Lag BaOmer be the Northern Kingdom celebration of Pesach, Chodesh HaShabudim?
They don't celebrate Pesach Sheni, it's just a date here. They don't mention that Pesach Sheni as a day. They come to celebrate in Meron or other places. It's not Pesach Sheni as Pesach Sheni as
I
we know.
understand, but could that be the source, perhaps,
Is
in
er
that area?
Nee, dat is even maar bekomst. Ik snap, could be.
Vreeg, me vregen.
It might be. Let's wait to the next.
Let's wait and see.
Anyone?
Anyhow,
You went from the first Ma'ale Masa'ot was in the 13th century, mid-13th
and
century.
And second half.
Second. And the next one that it says
14th
that
century.
was the void. So in
The
100
Arabs-
years they went from Yid Aladir to Yid Chesir. Yes?
Yud Dalet to Yud Chet.
Yes. And in 100 years it moved from Kever Shaman Hill to Kever Rashbi.
No. That great idea. I have another solution.
But this is what we saw so far, yeah?
That's exactly what we saw today.
One more question.
Small question. אל המסעות, מי חיבר את זה? Who was
No,
both?
we don't
You don't
know.
know?
You know, I will tell you if you ask. There is. Are you interested in travelogues in Jewish?
Yes.
There is somebody. It's called Mas'ot Talmid Ramban that was published by Rav Asaf. Mas'ot Talmid Ramban. It's almost the same as Ela Mas'ot, and this is Talmid Ramban because at this manuscript he mentioned he listed many people who were buried in the cemetery in the Carmel that of the Jews of Akko that didn't like to be buried in Akko because of the question if it's Eretz Israel or not, and one of them was a Ramban. But the problem is that it was written by Ashkenazi guy. It's quite
Interesting. It should be a Talmud.
Look, if you know, if I believe that some of you did it, dealt with Ashkenazic manuscript. Ashkenazic manuscript is a text and it's full with a glossary around it, and sometimes the glossary enter into it. The Ashkenazim doesn't have a problem with changing the text. The last text that was important. So what happened in the Mas'ot Talmid Rabban? Mas'ot Talmid Rabban the Ele HaMasa'ot that was used in the manuscript that I mentioned now, Talmid Rabban, used by Ashkenazi that enter the glossary into the book, and it's easily. I wrote a paper about it, and I listed all the Tosafot of this Ashkenazi period. The Mekorot. If you wish, I can give you the.
One more question I want to ask.
Yes.
You said that the Jews also took part in the Hilulot by the Arabs. We have quotations about that?
Yeah, we have quotation not in Hebrew sources.
But
We have in Muslim sources.
They write that the Jews also come to their.
Yes. Even in Latin, even in Christian, because the popular religion. Remember, we have to remember this is gule of a place for akarot. As many akarot that are not Christian will come to enjoy it.
One more question. You said about the story about the water. How would you explain it? It's a real thing. Started to come the water. How do you?
What happened in the cave?
Yes. What happened?
Ask me after that. That's a question that I said.
The question is.
Okay.
Exactly the question.
Okay.
What happened in the cave? If you come into it, I myself, because I like it very much, it will take me 2 hours to speak about it.
Okay,
Let's concern.
Why is it more true to you what it says about the people being outside the cave and what happens in the cave? Like, what's the difference to you between the story?
Why? Because I will tell you. That I would like to tell you.
Yeah.
Because my understanding of holy places, sacred places, even sacred place like that, two stones that people decided they are holy, and they came and organized ziyar, aliyah, pilgrimage, and come to get inspiration, come to it to pray, to get inspiration, to discover the holy name, the Hashem Forash. That's one of the most important things that Mekubalim went to places like that. I can give you the sentence as I speak. This this 72 name I got in the cave of such and such and such. But this is a very important thing. And let me go back to your question. To explain what does it mean sacred place. I used the form of Beit Mikdash. Form of Mikdash. For me, it's Mikdashim. It's not synagogues. They are not synagogues. They are not communal at all. There is no community around them. They are in the middle of the field, out of the villages. And if you would like to understand how they behave, look, take the text that we read right now. Some people enter to the cave. The others waited outside. They know how to bring the water as if. They know how to bring the water. They did it. If it doesn't work, they continue to work it until they manage. Then happens Hitgalut. the התגלות, the water came out, and then all the people out שמחים, means רוקדים, that was...
כמו הקוים בצייסי מן הקודש, ביום כיפור.
Exactly. That means that we have קודש הקודשים, that we have azarot, that the place the people stay until the water came out, and all the
we have the mind from the Psikim and Cheskel.
This is just a fable. I don't say that this is Bet Mikdash, but the concept of Bet Mikdash is a concept you have to use in every Makom Kadosh.
The water is the water from the Novi Cheskel that's coming out from the Bet
Mikdash. This is more complicated.
מה הקשר של פסח שני למים? זה
לא קשר, סתם תאריך.
למה דווקא באותו יום? כאילו מה הקשר?
מה סתם תאריך?
That's the date in the Galilee that they decided that there is something in the Galilean culture. Let's go back to it after that, because now we are. First of all, the most important thing. Let's go.
Okay. Professor, you can change.
Now we'd like just to have a glance, to have a glance to beautiful text that was written by the high elite member. A poet that was a part of the court of Rabbi David Nagib, the granddaughter of Maimonides, of Rambam, and he wrote a פירוש on Sefer Yoshua. And on his פירוש על הפסוק, על מלחמת חמשת המלכים, על חצור, כן? ויבואו ויחנו יחדיו על מי מרום להילחם עם ישראל. If I'm not wrong, it's the chapter 11, but I'm not sure about it. You remember the chapter, this posuk. ויבואו ויחנו יחדיו על מי מרום, the five מלכים, מלך חצור, יבין מלך חצור was the head of them, and מי מרום, הוא הנקרא היום מרון. That's the place, remember Yoshua and the connection between חצור and Yoshua and מרון. זה מרון. And this is a spring of water, the מעיין של מים. ומספרים, מה מספרים? שהמים מתגברים שם בשביל עולי הרגל. בדיוק, exactly the same what you read in the two Arab chronics and in the אלה המסעות. Exactly the story. שהמים מתגברים שם בשביל עולי הרגל אחרי שהיו יבשים. That is the same miracle. Am I right?
Yes.
אבל תשימו לב. ותראה, אותו מקום היה מצוי בזמן קדום. מי מרום אנחנו יודעים תמיד, מימי יהושע, וכולנו מכירים את זה, אבל אף פעם לא הזכירו את הנס הזה. He's a skepticist. הוא אומר, מה זה הסיפורים האלה? בוא במייסס, כן. And this is a very important guy. He is a son of philologist. He by himself is a very important poet in his time. And he wrote in the interpreter of Sefer Yoshua, I don't believe the Bobby Mises of the pilgrims of the Galilee, that there is something important. But we believe and we are going on. Okay? Now we'd like to follow. I think that I would like to say something. I'm not sure that we didn't finish it. Let's say something about the Pesach Sheni and Yudchet. Yudchet, it's very important date. We are going now to deal with that. Pesach Sheni is also important place in Meron, and I'm going to bring some text about it, some piyutim from the 7th, 8th century. But many people, a friend of mine, Moran colleague, Boaz Rus from Ben-Gurion University. I'm from Tel Aviv University, but I work there. And he claimed that there is a stage that the most important day was Pesach Sheni, and it moved to Yudchet B'Iyar. It's not, it's a mistake, it's a big mistake. Because the story is, as I mentioned in the first text that we read about Ori HaKodesh, okay? That he came from the first day of the week. He said that 3 days. Why do they have to mention 3 days? 3 days from the week. All the story of Meron started in Pesach Sheni and finished in the day of Rashbi. Why Lag BaOmer became so important? Because the day of Rashbi is Yudchet. But the Meron is a story. Not Rashbi is the most important story, but the story is Meron. I hope that I convince you that all the sanctuary, all the holy place, we have to judge it as it for itself. So it started at Pesach Sheni and finished in Lag BaOmer, and Hari showed us it clearly. And I can show you not many, but another evidence. This interpretation. I hope that you accept the idea.
But it's more than 3 days.
It's more than 3 days. It's a week. From
5 days almost.
It's 5, yes. But that's the interpretation. There is no way to families that lived in the Epic Gallery in the West or far in the to stay 1 day there. There's no way to do that. It's for us when you come with Eged or with, but there's no way to do that. But anyhow, I said something more. That the fest from the beginning to the end includes some days of many Tanaim. The important of them is Rashbi. And they started with the tekes, with the ritual of the water. The ritual of the water more important than everything. The water, that's the question of how to live in the Galilee. So they have to pray on the. By the way, we know from Chidam, for the same Pinkas, that they used to go to Meron in the drought years. If there was a drought, the only way, not in Lag BaOmer,
God of the water.
Whenever, yes, in the Lulavim. You know the story of the Lulavim?
כן, הם לקחו לולבים ועשו הקפות. המגיד, אבס יוסף עשה את זה.
אבס יוסף, exactly. אבס יוסף מזכיר את זה. I thought of bringing it, but if you wish I can show it to you. Yes, Magid Mishorim said that he came to in Sukkot, not in Lag BaOmer. He came in Sukkot with Lulavim.
זה היה בסוכות או שזה היה בחשוון כסלו?
הוא מדבר על סוכות. הוא מזכיר את זה.
סבינה בצורס, נסיק יש לו גם בצורס. נסיק בסוכות אין בצורת, לא יודעים שלא ירד גשם, בסוכות רק מתחיל.
הוא מספר את הריטואל.
זה היה בסוכות, כן?
הוא מספר שהוא מגיע לקבר בסוכות, ומצידי, from right hand side I see רבי אלעזר, from the left hand side.
זה הקפות מסביב.
Now I would like to go back to the Lag BaOmer. This is the Holy Week. The Holy Week, and I tell you now, but I can't interpret it because I don't remember all the details. All the story of Pesach Sheni, all the that they celebrate it, the water, etc. It's something of the question of the luach that you mentioned. But I don't remember all the details. I don't like to say something wrong. I came to it together with the guy that was the president of the EBU, Menachem Agidor, that he's an expert in the astronomy. He's a mathematician, and he dealt with Luach. And he come to me, he discovered something that I was interested, and we learned together Ethiopian text and the text of Meron, and it's for sure that it's a Luach, it's a Luach Shemesh. There is part in the Luach, the Galilean Luach, the Galilean calendar, that it's part of solar.
Like the Ketat from Cameroon, that also
something from, not like but something from
Cameroon.
But I don't remember the details, so forgive me and let's jump over it. Okay? I am reading now another. We are moving now to deal with Lag BaOmer, with Yudchet B'Iyar. With Yudchet B'Iyar. I bring only few texts. I will speak about another one that I didn't bring. It's appeared in Sefer Zerubbabel. Have you?
Explain what's that.
Sefer Zerubbabel is the most important book in the Messianic tradition, the Jewish Messianic tradition. It was written not by Zerubbabel, but it's related to its pseudo-epigraphia that related to Zerubbabel of the beginning of the Second Temple time. And he gave, it's apocalyptic book. It's apocalyptic book. And of course, what happened there, sorry?
Just explain that.
This is the most important Messianic text, Jewish Messianic text. And if you see in Maimonides, or Rav Saadia Gaon, Rav Hai Gaon, sorry, that he answered about the procedure of coming of Messiah, he take it from Sefer Zerubbabel. He took it from Sefer Zerubbabel. But for us, let's go to the י"ח באייר. עוד י"ח באייר.
בית המקדש השלישי.
We are now in 9 o'clock, is that okay?
Okay.
ובחודש השני באייר תעלה עדת קורח בערבות יריחו, על נחל של שיטים. עדת קורח תעלה בערבות יריחו. Where is ערבות יריחו? South of the Galilee, south of the areas that we speak about. ב-18 בו, in י"ח באייר, will be an earthquake. ב-18 בו ירעשו הרים וגבעות ותתמוטטה הארץ בכל אשר עליה וים בכל אשר בה. ל"ג בעומר, י"ח באייר, it's a day, it's a messianic day. It's one of the harbingers of the messianic days. That's the beginning of the process. It's connected, it's connected דווקא to the lower Galilee, to בקעת ארבל, but it's moved after that to the upper Galilee, but this is too long to explain how it's come. Anyhow, 18 באייר, it's a date. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
18 באייר, it's a date. We are not sure how it became the date. It is a very important date in the apocalyptic system, Jewish apocalyptic system. At the end, we find it in ל"ג בעומר, in Meron. It's also not so difficult to connect it to messianic ideas, but let's leave it now. But here we have in the 7th century, in the 7th century, in 7th, 8th century, we have the very messianic, very apocalyptic issue, earthquake that happened in ל"ג בעומר, in י"ח באייר. Let's go on.
Who's עדת קורח?
עדת קורח זה, עדת קורח עתידים, and they're going to come...
צדיק אדום יפרח.
צדיק אדום יפרח.
So
this is one of the signs of coming of the Messiah, because they're coming in the...
They're returning.
The returning, exactly. This is a piyut of Rabbi Elazar HaKalir of the 8th century, 7th century AD, okay? וכל היה חת משפת שני, everybody was scary from השני, רחב, you know, the חוט השני ביריחו. בהיות בן נון מנהיג שעוני, when Yoshua ben Nun was a leader, ויחמוס ימיו ובו אישוני, הוא מת, he died, and then we lost our eyes, because he was our eyes, he was a leader. When? ב-18 בשני. There is another event, not only the earthquake. Yoshua ben Nun, the yahrzeit of Yoshua ben Nun is י"ח באייר. Okay? And you know the connection between Yoshua ben Nun and Rashbi?
Hargash. Meron.
Yes. Jonathan has a paper about
I'm gonna put everything. I put everything on the group.
Anyhow, meanwhile, you see Yoshua ben Nun came for us twice. The second one was in Hargash, but it's connected to here. Here is Hakalir. Hakalir is considered to be Tana by some Achronim. He's not. He's Mea Shvi'it. Here is he's a Peitan that I'm not sure that one of them heard about him, although he was very important. Rabbi Pinchas HaKohen of Kafra. And he wrote Kiddush Yirachim. You know that every Rosh Chodesh it was a Kiddush and they celebrated Rosh Chodesh. This is a Kiddush of Iyar. He doesn't speak specially about Yoshua ben Nun. He mentioned many events. For example, the first one is Pesach Sheni. Pasoach v'ganon tme'im b'yashvo. Just simple Pesach Sheni. Without Meron, without anything. Tzom Yoshua ב-18 בו. There is a tzom that mentioned also in Sefer Tzomot, Megillat Tzomot, if you know about it. Yes. It's mentioned also there. Tzom Yoshua ב-18 בו. Iyar Kervan. Iyar made shidduch between Pesach Sheni and Tzom Yoshua. V'tziva melishbor etzem bo. Okay? This is almost the same age of Hakalir. Rabbi Pinchas HaKohen mikafra, that is very interesting figure that we have many piyutim of him, and all the Kiddushei Yerachim of him. And this is taken from Kiddushei Yerachim. Now I would like to read text that is taken from Ptachia of Reis. Have you heard about the Ptach Regensburg? I believe all of you.
Messiah.
Ptach Regensburg was
Traveler.
a student of Rabbi Yehuda Chassid. His brother was Rabbi Yitzchak Halavan, the Tosafist.
Big Talmud of the Rebellion Town.
Yes, Talmud of Rabbeinu Tam, and he wrote a very problematic book that was edited again and again and lost his backbone. But sometimes he brings Israeli, Palestinian, Eretz Israelian stories, not that he composed, but he quoted them in the Eretz Israelian language, dialect. Okay? One of them is this. והר געש גבוה מאוד. Okay? הר געש, the place that Yehoshua ben Nun, here it was buried, but according to the Pasuk it's not buried there, but by הר געש. והר געש גבוה מאוד. רחוק ממנו ניתאי ארבלי בהרבה. רחוק ממנו means close to, because רחוק, for me, it take half an hour to go, but it's close. In this area of הר געש, there is ניתאי ארבלי. וההר של הר געש עשוי 10 מעלות, עשוי מעלות שעולים בו, עשוי steps וסטפס. ובאמצע ההר יהושע בן נון קבור. ואצלו כלב בן יפונה. And next to them נובע מעיין, let's leave it now. ואצל אחד means apsis. You know what apsis is? Basilica. There is a place, there is מקום. It's built in this case. אצל אחד ניכרת פסיעה אחת כאדם הפוסע בשלג. We see in the rock a sign of step. In the cellar, in the rock. It's so clear like men that walk in the snow leave behind him. Footstep. כך ניכר, it's clear. Why? What's the meaning of this sign? That's the place שדרך בה המלאך, וזוהי שדרך בה המלאך ונתגאש ארץ ישראל לאחר מות יהושע. That's the place, the המלאך, who is the angel that was sent to make the earthquake in ארץ ישראל לאחר מות יהושע? There is a legend in the Galilee that Ptach Regensburg brought it, and it's not Ptach Regensburg. Here you can find it in Ruth Rabbah. Ruth Rabbah said the same story. The Medrash Rabbah, Medrash Ruth. Okay? In Medrash Ruth, you can say, can I continue or?
Yes.
You are tired.
Sure, you can continue on mine.
Yes, you want a break.
Sorry?
You want a break?
Let me finish this message. In Ruth Rabbah, they bring the same story. It means that it's not a story of Ptachia, and it's not a story of Ruth. It's a story that's going on in the Galilee. That's the tradition. The tradition is that's the footstep of the angel that made the earthquake. Why you have to do that? Because they didn't murn Yehoshua ben Nun. They didn't massacre Yehoshua ben Nun. Look, but I brought Ruth Rabbah not to say the same story that Ptachia said, just because of the Brechia, the great darshan from Tveria, closer to Rosh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, Reb Brechia ורב סימון ורב יהושע בן לוי, חזרנו על כל המקרא. We read the Chumash again and again, and we didn't find a place its name Har Gash. There is no Har Gash. So, what Har Gash? What the meaning Har Gash? לפי שנתגעשו ישראל מעשות גמילות חסד ליהושע, the word נתגעשו, it doesn't clear, they did something wrong, and they didn't give the covet that Yehoshua was respected. ביקש הקדוש ברוך הוא להרעיש את כל העולם. He wanted to send an earthquake and to destroy all the world. Okay? So we see here Har Gash in the Galilee.
This is opposition to the Galilee?
It's not opposition, but it's correction the tradition. He said he wanted to do that. And the story, as Ptachia revealed, he did it. It was great. Okay. And if you go back to Sefer Zerubbabel, you know that in Yudchet B'Iyar, It's going to be. And after the break, I will continue exactly on this point. No, I will stop in the middle of the sentence. I can tell you orange to the I will sum up all the other texts. When we have time.
5 minutes.
I'm sure people like Okay.
I'm trying to say, the lecture is going to take another 20-30 minutes, and I'm begging people shouldn't speak in, because we have to understand the next 2 lectures is a different topic, and anything we could get, we want to be coining now. So please, anyone that has very interesting theories and things, we could talk after that. They could publish it, but this is now we came to hear Professor Reiner. Everyone that thinks I mean them, then obviously maybe there's a reason. Okay, now we're going to continue.
Okay, let's continue. Let me remind you, Ruth Rabbah, the Argash. We find Argash in the Lower Galilee, and to be more accurate, the Lower Galilee here, it's Bikat Arbel. That's the place. Bikat Arbel, Argash, it's the mountain that it's called today. It's called Karnei Chitin, and you can find the sanctuary of the Druze, Nebi Shu'aib. That Nebi Shu'aib, that exactly the Kever Yehoshua, the Tzion of Yehoshua ben Nun and Kaleb ben Yefuneh of the Middle Ages. And that connected to something that I wrote a lot about it and liked it very much, about the presence of all the stories of the entering to Eretz Israel in the Galilee. They look at the Galilee at the place of Yehoshua ben Nun, and they identify the Yarden that the Bnei Israel crossed when they came into Eretz Israel. They identified the Kinneret, and in Tiberias there is a Knesset, Yehoshua ben Nun. Why Knesset Yehoshua ben Nun? That's the place that he prayed when he finished to cross the Jordan. So it's very important, very interesting thing. It's not time to speak about it. Yeah. It's another issue. That if you have to understand more than what we're dealing now only about Meron, Rashbi, Lag BaOmer. But if we deal in general, the Galilean myth in general, then we have to. You can find it in the papers that I gave to Jonathan, and he
put it up. I put it on the group.
Okay. But in one of them,
which sefer is this text? You didn't write it.
This is Sefer Zerubbabel. It's again from Sefer Zerubbabel. Ve'omer Elai Menachem ben Amiel. Menachem ben Amiel is the name of the Messiah. Menachem is the name of the Messiah. Yes. Menachem ben Amiel יבוא פתאום בחודש הראשון בחודש ניסן. I don't care about the dates now. The important dates for us was the earthquake that happened in Lag BaOmer, but where he started his moving, his travel of the Menachem, he is Messiah, son Mashiach ben Yosef. He is Mashiach ben Yosef שימות, that he is going to die in the Chomot Yerushalayim. But he started his moving toward Jerusalem in where? In Bikat Arbel של Yehoshua ben Yehotzadok. In Bikat Arbel, Yehoshua, you can find Yehoshua's all over the Galilee. Yehoshua became from the exact figure, Yehoshua ben Nun. He is spread over the Galilee. Yehoshua ben Pracha, Yehoshua ben Gamla, Mishmar Yehoshua within Mishmar Kohanim, and Jesus. So that you can find in the papers that I'm going to say. And this is very important to us to understand Rashbi soon. But Bikat Arbel here, I would like to emphasize that Bikat Arbel, that's the arena that you can compare only to one place, other place in the Bible, to Har HaZitim. All the traditions of Har HaZitim, moving at the end, Milchemet Gog uMagog, etc., etc. Even the Aliyah L'Shamayim, So that we know about Aliyah Shamayim of Jesus from Har Zitim, and there is apocrypha that related to in the Galilee, but we have also Aliyah Shamayim. כן? 10 גלויות גלתה שכינה. One of the versions is she came after he sat in the top of Har Zitim 3.5 years. He understood that the Bnei Israel not going to make tshuva, and he went to heaven.
Me it reminds a little bit of the Pusik in Zechariah, Dalad, on the Raglov, in a split, the Har Hazais and the Har.
I don't find it here.
You don't find this?
But I didn't do the whole. I'm not sure that it's everything, but all the.
No, it's also the footstep.
Anyhow, the tradition. I forgot to say that the footstep is Har Zitim. The footstep we have also in Har Zitim. Har Zitim, they copied the traditions of Har Zitim into Tiberias. And Bikat Arbel is the Har Zitim.
And where's the Mikdash?
The Mikdash, that's a question. There is no Mikdash. They don't dare to do that.
It's the Har itself.
Might be that they spread all the sacred places.
I think the Ma'ara is the Mikdash.
The Ma'ara, but we have to move back to the Upper Galilee. Now we are in the lower. But if you said that, let me add something on the 7th. I will come back to it, I hope so. But it's a hole to eat in the middle of the...
You want tissue?
I believe that everyone knows this passage of רבי חייא רבא ורבי שמעון בן חלפתא שהיו מהלכים בבקעת ארבל, בעד בקעת ארבל, בקריצתא, in the morning, לנהל את השחר. There is a lot of versions. For me, thanks. The version that I choose, it's in Yerushalmi. But what I like to point out only one thing. They ראו איילת השחר מגאולה, ממסיה, אמר רבי חייא רבא לרבי שמעון בן חלפתא. They went in בקעת ארבל, and in the בקעת ארבל they have the vision of the Messiah. That's it. I don't like to waste time on this person.
Krista could be Christ?
Krista is no. Krista it's איילת השחר. Okay? And there are versions that איילת השחר in French. בסדר? Let's go on. I don't like to go into this very famous story, but this is the only version that you can use. That's the story of Rashbi in the cave. That go out from the cave. What I like to say now, I'm running. I don't like to each of you can find this famous story Masechet Shabbat everywhere. This taken from the Yerushalmi. I think that this is the authoritative version of the story. I would like to point it out on one thing. I believe that it's very difficult to read it from the screen. I will quote 4 or 5 not passages, part of sentences to show one thing. I would like to see that. For me, it's, you know what is Sipur Yesod, foundation story in English. This is a term that we use in history many times. A myth that we adapted a story that became a story that we adapted it until it became a myth of a group. Like, let's show Matan Torah. No, Matan Torah is not good.
סיפור אדם וחווה.
No, it's not like Adam וחווה. Foundation story, what?
It's going to be hard to find one.
The replacement theory.
At the end, every group that try to
take from Greece,
crystallize themselves will formulate a sort of foundation story. I look at this story, the story of the Me'ara, without the story of 13 years and whatever, or dialogue between Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Lazar, and Rashbi, just according to the paragraphs, what he did step by step after he left the cave. I look at it as a foundation story of the Galilee, because I claim the Rashbi, he's not a tzaddik, It's not part of the Kivrei Tzadikim that you mentioned at the beginning. He is a founder of the Galilee. He has a very special cult as a founder. That's the reason that he has 24 synagogues that he built in the Galilee. I'm not sure that you heard about this. It's mentioned in the Travelogue. It's not in 24 synagogues that Rashi. Why 24? Like Mishmarot Keuna, like all the number of 24. But the 24 synagogues mean he built the Galilee. You know, like 12 tribes of Israel, that Israel, 12 and 24, etc. So Rashbi, the story of the outing of the cave is a foundation story. He built the capital city of the Galilee, Tiberias. First of all, the most important thing is that he purified from Mitim. That's the step that allowed people to live in the city. Without that, it's restricted. He opened Tiberias to be a city. And that come out from the let's read this one. יצא ומצא שנרגעו הדברים, באו והתרפאו במעיינות, אמר לו בנו, אמר רבי אלעזר, אבא, נטהר אותה מן המתים, מה עשה? לקח תורמוסין, היה מקצץ, זורק את הקציצות והגוויות עלו, ומוציא אותם. הנה, he built Tiberias. Now Tiberias, it's kosher to be a Jewish city. If you go halla, you can find one from Haaretz that bring a dead man and show you didn't do anything. Here you can find. They said the dead man will come, will be alive, and you will die. Yeah, etc., etc. Read it carefully. You will understand what I mean. I mean, every passage here, it's a chapter in building city, and chapter in building city from a legal point of view, from tahara, from teaching tinokot. Limud Tinokot, etc., etc. He built the city. That's the story, and all the story of the 13 years in the cave is just a background, a literary background to the foundation story of the Galilee and Rashbi as the founder of the Galilee. And the founder of the Galilee, although that it's related to Tiberias is a capital city of Galilee. Okay, this is very important for us because he now has to be shown himself in the Galilee, not in Tiberias, and not in. And now I would like to point it out. I just like to give titles. I don't like to read. Here I will show you. You can read it quickly without me. Here we have two versions of moving of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rashbi, to Meron. According of the and according of בקשה of Rashbi. כן? כיוון שמת ניתן בגוש חלב והיה רבי שמעון בר יוחאי מתגלה על אנשי מירון. That means that he is already in Meron. הוא היה מתגלה על אנשי מירון. רבי אליעזר נמצא בגוש חלב ורשב"י כבר נמצא במירון, and he asked the תושבי מירון, עין אחת של ימין, my right eye that I had, I didn't have the right to stay with me. Means I ask you to bring Rabbi Elazar to Meron. היו אנשי מירון, this is a very interesting story, I don't like to read it now, we don't have time for that, with these snakes, like the keepers of, okay, but even now, I took these two versions. One of them is from Eretz Yisrael in Midrash, Psikta Rav Kahana from the 5th century, one of the earliest Midrashim, but it's Eretz Yisraelian, and the other one is in Bavli Baba Metzia. Of course, we used to look at Baba Metzia as far away and not accurate. I look at it in the opposite way, because I think that to keep everything that it's kept in the Bavli that relate to Eretz Yisrael, they don't care about it. They don't change the story because it's not part of their life. So I look at the Baba Metzia more accurate than Psikta. The Psikta lead in the time that happened. So they change all the time according to the changing of the minhagim. And that's the time that I believe Rashbi became
You mean to say that
hero.
Psikta is
Was
an
man again?
you mean to say Psikta is an Israeli
mythical
an
figure?
Israeli- an Israeli-
Yes.
Israeli figure.
Yes, but I forgot.
Rashbi became what? What did you want
Hero.
to
I forgot something. I forgot to say something. From my point of view, and I can't explain it now. It's very difficult to show all the material. From my point of view, Yoshua ben Nun was the founder of the Galilee and the founder of Eretz Israel. He is the founder of Eretz Israel, and you can find it even in rabbinical literature, even in Christian literature. They say they compare between Jesus and Yeshua. They cross the Jordan and give us the promised land and etc. etc. So Yoshua ben Nun was the founder of the Galilee, considered to be, and there is a cult of Yoshua ben Nun. For me, Meron is a cult of Yoshua ben Nun, and I hinted to it in the story of
Timna Seira.
in the Nasser, exactly. And but it's we have a lot of materials about it. If you read my second paper from Joshua to Rashbi, then I showed it exactly in the manuscript. How the manuscript showed that the beginning Meron was, they called Meron Chatzor, as you saw in Tanchum Yerushalmi. כן, Chatzor is Meron, that the main Meron is Meron, and that was the place that Yoshua made the nest of the end of all the Kibush Haaretz. That's the last battle of in Kibush Haaretz. That's the importance of the place. And we have a manuscript that said almost meforish that Meron is Chatzor and Chatzor is Yoshua ben Nun. And you can see it in the paper that I don't like to comment. I'm not sure that I remember it. But if you remember the passage, the Jabal Zabud, that there are people who identify Jabal Zabud with Har Gash, you don't need more. If they, and we saw it in the Kaftor V'Ferach, he said there are people and they are wrong. As for us, they are not wrong. They are right. They know the Galilean tradition. If Jabal Zabud is Har Gash, means that Yoshua ben Nun buried in Meron. What happened? How Meron became Rashbi? Became Rashbi because in the 4th century, all the mixing of Jesus, all Yoshua under one title, and the mixing of the position of Jesus among some Jews, what we call them Christian Jews till now, came to the end. It came to the end because that's the time that in the 4th century, Malchut nihita leminut. Malchut nihita leminut. The Christianity became the empire, the Eastern Empire of Rome, and they started the time of the riots against the Jews in Eretz Israel and in other places. Not riots, but blood labels and not like. Basically, in the legal, they were persecuted by law, especially.
It's all good.
So since then, the Christianity became real enemy of the Jews of Eretz Israel, Jews of all over, but especially in our arena. And then Yoshua ben Nun, the founder, was changed by Rashbi. And that's the story that he became founder. And if you take I'm not sure that you like to do that.
Why they had to drop Yeshua and adopt Rashbi?
That Yoshua, Rashbi is Yoshua.
Yeshua got adopted
It's
to
Yoshua,
Jesus,
yes.
so
And if you take,
Zilben
Yoshua could not continue to be a Jewish hero. That's it. Just because of the association to Jesus. Jesus became enemy. Before that, he could be interpreted as part of the Galilean culture, as one of the Yoshua, etc., etc. Since the 4th century, it couldn't continue. And then the new Rashbi of the 4th century, not the Tana, but the founder of the Galilee, appears, and he took the place of Yoshua ben Nun in Meron, and take part in the and then they have to move Rashbi to the Pantheon, to the place that was identified with Yoshua ben Nun, and that is two stories.
But they moved the other
Sorry?
They moved the son over there, not
They moved the tradition. not the boat.
Rabbi Reiner.
Not the boat. The
That's the
tradition. The tradition was at the beginning either in Gush Chalav or Akbara. That's the place that Eliezer nimtza, and I believe that the story, the full story was what.
No, just like Satmar Rebbe moved Kiddush and said Tzlutzi Monroe. we understand. We get it. We were taught that. Yes.
Well, 1 second, Professor Reiner, I think you should elaborate a little bit, because you hinted in the middle bit that not only you're saying that the tradition went from Yeshiva Benin to Rashbi, but it's not really the Rashbi, the Tana that we're talking about.
They consider
It's not the same person?
the same person.
It is the same
But
person.
it's not historical person.
Not historical person.
Yeah,
Okay.
but of
So
course,
where's
it's the same
Bashama
person.
It's the same person, that's what I'm
So,
asking you.
What do you mean, same person, not historical person? When you explain that.
Historical, I have to say that the formation of Rashbi, the new Rashbi, it's not historically the guys that lived in the 2nd century, the student of Rabbi Akiva.
Like the Zohar, similar?
It is, they adapted
the Hilah,
they lived in the
That's what I'm
world.
trying-
They
that's how I
lived in
want
the
you to
world of
elaborate.
Tanaim, and they choose Rashbi for their own reasons. You can guess.
So
what.
they didn't choose Rashbi.
Rashbi is the guy that
I'm
said,
asking-
"If Kol Haolam Kulo, me and my
Right.
son can save."
Yeah,
them."
but this column killer, this is the Rashbi from the Hemshech Yeshiva Benin, right?
I'm not
This
sure.
ki-
I'm not
no,
sure.
this kind of column
Yes,
killer.
yes.
Why do you think? Why don't you want to say the reason they took Rashbi? Because he was a big scholar and a big Talmud Rebbe. The most amazing name.
I believe that some layers of
andere
meat.
wens,
I agree with you. He was a highly important Tanakh. Besides that, he has some layers of myth.
And you do think that's true?
No,
he offered an alternative to the
I'm not sure.
Is Vina Bashemta.
This is a very new thing, right?
Although
So I'm asking
even the new thing, when the Zohar describes the death of Rashbi in the Lapid, it's quite close to the story as it appears in the details in the
Right,
Evangelion.
exactly. So I'm asking,
Yeah.
why do you say that it's not the same? It's not, what do you want to be mudgash? That it's not the same Tana that we know. It's like dressed on him. It's like a.
It's the same Tana,
Yeah.
but they added a lot of a new layer on his personality.
Okay.
But
It's the same. Sorry.
There's two questions. One is
We finished, by the way.
coming from Yeshiva Benin all the way to Rashbi
It's
is like, and we're speaking about 1500, 1600 years. What's with all those things that Yosef and everything that they speak about the Google as non-Jewish people that were Megaya themselves, Tveri in the time of the Churban? It seems to be like it was a real break of Jewish people living in
Because of
Google.
Shia Benin, no?
Yeah.
Was there a different?
No, the Kerem Beyavne.
And also,
lot of-
Shimei Chui is like 100 years before the Roman Empire becomes Christian. I'm like, just you were saying that.
But there are
didn't
moving
become
of
right away.
Jews that converted to Christianity and Romans
That's
that
the other side of the
converted
Google. I'm
to
just-
Judaism in that time. It's
But
mixed.
if I have to repeat this theory, I'm going to say because he was named the same.
Sorry?
No. Okay, so
Sheba
thank you very much,
Ah,
Professor
yeah.
Reiner. We finished the
Names,
lecture.
that was an offensive
Anyone that
name.
wants to go now, talk.
Like,
talk
I
to the
forgot
professor.
something very interesting.
Yeah.
You remind me, because I like to tell you that the disappearing of the paganism and the centrality of the new monotheism brought many people to move from between Christianity and Judaism. But that reminds me something very important that I forgot to say about the date Yudchet B'Iyar. Yudchet B'Iyar mentioned in a letter that was written by Procopius, the Bishop of Jerusalem in the 4th century, that described the earthquake in Jerusalem in the year, I think, 307 something. I'm not sure. Forgive me. And he described. If you heard about the Emperor Julianus the
Apostate.
heretic,
Julian the Apostate.
yes, and he allowed the Jews to rebuild the third temple in Jerusalem.
few years.
Yeah.
And after some month, it was the earthquake that destroyed everything. We know about any. Sorry?
Yeah.
It's documented.
There is
No, we know about it a lot. There is no Jewish source.
There is a psikta. There is a psikta about it. Something about it. There is a
If you
makar.
interpret the psikta
If you
in
interpret
one
the
way,
psikta,
there is no meforish in any way.
Aber sie geschehen, was der Christen
Look, what I'm going to say now.
What were you saying?
Look, this is very interesting. And Prof is right in his letter that it's happened. We don't know any reaction made by Jews to the third destruction of the temple. Nothing, as much as I know.
temple, they just started.
Just started.
But you can't make a
But
zakemunas.
it's event. If they started and failed, it could be interpreted positively, negatively.
But
But in his letter, he mentioned one very important thing, that it's happened in Yudchet Be'iyar. He mentioned the Hebrew month, not because
Menachem ben Amniel, whatever. You can.
yes. The destruction of the destruction, yes. So you have to take now. We have to take it now from the destruction of the as temple that we have through all the earthquake, hopefully earthquake until Rashbi in Yudchet Be'iyar and that's it. That's the good conclusion to the.
Do we find any pushback from early Christian sources on this, trying to impose Rashbi on the Meron? Do we find from early Christian?
I don't know.
And what's the correlation between Jesus and Yeshua?
Okay.
Sorry?